If you are a frequent listener to the podcast, you know that we have been sponsored by Fuji Sports for quite some time now. Whether you're looking for apparel, equipment, bags, or accessories, Fuji Sports has got it covered. Go to fujisports.com to see the latest selection of everything you need for your jiu-jitsu, judo, or MMA journey. That's fujisports.com. Let me take a minute to tell you about RŌL TV. If you're looking to take your jiu-jitsu to the next level and supplement your BJJ education, then RŌL TV has you covered. RŌLAcademy.tv has over 1,500 videos covering individual techniques, positions, and concepts, including seminars and workshops with top-level competitors and instructors like Chris Wojcik, Robert Drysdale, Aaron Hurley, Emily Kwok, and more. Whether you are a beginner or a more advanced student, RŌL TV is the online platform that can take your jiu-jitsu to the next level. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. This makes sure that we can continue bringing you the amazing guests and content that you have come to expect. Today's guest has worked with the biggest names in combat sports and has been in the ring for some of the biggest fights in modern history. Jacob "Stitch" Duran joins the show to discuss his career as a cutman, how he takes care of the fighters beyond the cuts, and what is in store for his future. Here's the RŌL Radio with the cutman to both legends of combat sports and those on their way up, Jacob "Stitch" Duran.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live. Stitch Duran, thank you for being here, sir. I mean, this is a great opportunity to have this chat. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you making a little bit of your time during today, this Saturday, to chat with me.
Thank you, Thomas. It's been a while, and sorry I had to cancel the last time. I've been running ragged, man, ever since I did this Mike Tyson fight.
I hear it's been busy for you.
Yeah, it's been a blessing, though.
Would you consider yourself the most popular Cutman there is out there right now? I mean, your name is pretty out there. The brand is pretty popular, isn't it?
Well, you answer that question.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Yeah. I always ask people, name 3 Cutmen, right? And but I've been fortunate, to have the opportunity to work with just about every major organization and every major fighter. And so, yeah, I think I kind of sit on top of the totem pole when it comes to brand recognition, right? And work. So I've been blessed.
As I've been reading up and getting ready for this conversation, it's hard to ignore the fact that you might be a perfect example of the American dream, if you will. I mean, self-made, started from nothing, if anything, and kind of building through a grind and not giving up and pushing through and taking opportunities as they present themselves. Do you ever reflect on your entire career, entire life in that fashion?
Oh, 100%. As a matter of fact, they're finishing up a documentary in my life called From the Fields to the Garden, because I grew up as a farm worker in the Central Valley of California. I was born and raised in a migrant camp, and my birth certificate for the address is CPC number 12, California Packing Company, right? So, yeah, we're just about 53 minutes into the editing. It's going to be a 90-minute feature film. Michael B. Jordan and their crew, the Creed people, are helping us take it to Amazon. And but I've had a lot of other Hollywood people that, hey, man, let's take it to Netflix and let's do that. So, but you're absolutely right. It's the type of story that if I can make it, anybody can make it. And, people say, well, just so calm and collected. I said, well, I'm the same guy I was growing up. I've been blessed with these opportunities that have been given to me, and just like you, I mean, I'm sure, you've had your obstacles that you had to cross to get to the point where you're at. We all did. We all have, but I'm the story where if you continue going and follow your dreams, and that dreams do come true, and I'm living them right now.
Do you find yourself this is set of a being in a right place at a right time kind of situation as you think about your life, or is it more of a listen, this is what I always wanted to do, and I'm going to do everything that it takes to get there?
Well, it's both. I was from Northern California. I lived in Northern California. I lived in Oakland when I got out of the military, and then I got into the boxing and all that, and then I moved up to the suburbs, Fairfield, California, and I opened up my own school of kickboxing. And so there I was a trainer before I was a Cutman, but the Cutman kind of floated to the top. And I got a job transfer with the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. They gave me a week to move. I talked them into 2 weeks and packed my family in a U-Haul. Well, first I transferred my school to a student. I sold my house and took a loss. Put my family in a U-Haul, drove 9 hours to Las Vegas, and took a $25,000 a year cut and pay, and to follow my dreams, right? And my wife supported me, my family supported me. They had the vision that I had, and came to Vegas, and it was only boxing at that time. And I knew Dana White before the UFC. He brought me in, and of course he took me out, and it's been fabulous ever since. So yeah, follow your dreams. I tell people because they do come true.
As I'm listening to you, it like one would think that you are crazy. I mean, why would you move that far? You're putting your family at risk, taking pay cuts and taking a loss on your house and all that. I mean, many people wouldn't even think about this. Like, this doesn't make any sense. What was driving point behind all of this? Like, what made you even remotely think about these things?
Well, it's a good question. Nobody's ever asked that question before. It kind of gave me chills as I thought about it. But you're right. I took a big, shot in the arm, and my brother lived here in Phoenix, and like 6 months into us living here, him and his wife came over, and my wife looks a little nervous, and he thought we got in a fight, but I couldn't pay my rent, and I remember he wrote me out a $1,500 check and paid my rent, and then I doubled his payment, and I never looked back. That was that one obstacle that you have to cross, right? So I got to give my brother a lot of credit, but I never thought I'd be in this position. Well, I take that back. I came here to be the best cut man in the world 30 years ago. April will be 30 years. And at that time, it was only boxing. And, joining the UFC, they gave me a lot of the exposure, the credibility. So job offers are, they come all the time. My final fight is going to be New Year's Eve in Tokyo. I'm working with Ayota Kazuto from Japan. So it's been a good life, bro.
It seems like a good ride.
Yeah.
So as you're making these big decisions early on in your life, you said it was your dream, it was your goal to become the best cutman that can be. Yeah. At which point you're making that statement? At which point that phrase becomes the anchor of everything that you do? Is this from the very beginning?
Yeah, the desire. In kickboxing, I was the A level as a cut man, and when I moved to Vegas, I went to be a cut man. I didn't go to be a trainer, but I'm looking at all these guys training, and I'm thinking, because I thought all the best trainers in the world were there, Thomas. I said, man, I could do that, and I could do that, but I always had that R.J. Reynolds job, so I couldn't be a full-time trainer. So I concentrated on being a cut man. But I used to do pad work, and being that I was working 8 to 5 with R.J. Reynolds, they would call me to do pad work, and I would kind of leave work for a couple hours and do pad work, and then go back to work. And like I say, and then, Dana brought me into the UFC and kind of gave me that brand recognition. Mm-hmm. But before that, I take that, my coming out fight in Las Vegas was Raul Marquez when he fought Keith Mullins. And Raul at that time was the IBF, I think, super middleweight champ. And he ended up with 5 cuts here, and I saved him, kept him in the game, and people, who is this guy? So that was my coming out party here. My first world title fight, and I just talked to him Saturday. I did a show in Phoenix, Top Rank show, Julio Cesar Chavez. I had told him about a year ago, and I said, look, I want you to know the first world title fight I worked with Tony the Tiger Lopez against you, Julio Cesar Chavez, in Monterrey, Mexico, in a baseball field. I told him. After that, every time he sees me, he gives me a hug. And so yeah, it's been a fun ride, man. And things just get better and better. And what makes me proud of all things, Thomas, is to this day I've never asked for one job. I've just been a proud Mexican. I can't kiss nobody's ass, and everything just happened when it happens. So I've been blessed.
Some might consider your job, your position, the function that you play within the match as the most important one. I mean, you are the person who puts these guys together when they are at their weakest point. I mean, I know that you've witnessed
Yeah.
and you've experienced some of these situations where it's tough physically and mentally. They are picked apart, and coaches play their own role, and everybody plays their own role. But arguably, you're the one who is, for lack of a better term, you're duct taping the situation. Your job is to put them together so they can go in for another whatever the round is.
Yep.
Do you feel that responsibility when you are in the ring and doing what you do?
100%. You know, my job is to, and, you know, every time I sit down with these fighters, because working with Top Rank, I work with a lot of new fighters now. And I said, look, my job is to make sure you walk out as handsome as you walk in, you know, and my job is to take care of you like you're my son, you know, and those are the words of just psychological words of confidence. Vladimir Klitschko, when he fought his last fight with Anthony Joshua, is in Wembley Stadium, right? Well, my daughter Carla, homie's wife, they got married in the island of Crete on Wednesday. So Thursday I flew to London, and I didn't see Vladimir and Vitaly till the dressing room for the weigh-ins. And I'm talking to Vladimir and Vitaly and going over the game plan and all that. And finally, at the end, I put my hand on Vladimir. I said, look, you know, don't worry about nothing tomorrow. I'm going to take care of you like you're my son. Because I know these guys can't sleep. I go and all that. So here we are. I'm putting the final Vaseline on him right before Michael Buffer does the announcements in front of 90,000, you know, loud Brits. And we're this far apart. And he says, you could call me son. And bro, that gave me chills, man, because I knew that I got into his head. And after the fight, one of the best fights he ever had. He lost his world title, but a very historical fight. People were yelling, Klitschko, Klitschko. And you know, it was awesome. And he calls me after, Daddy, Daddy. But the last time I saw him was in Germany. And it's like 3 months later. And I said, Vladimir, that one moment, why? And he says, Stitch, because there's very few people I trust in my life. You are one of them. You know, so that kind of puts everything into perspective.
That has to feel good.
It's a blessing, man. I did an interview with former world champion Marco Antonio Barrera in Spanish, right? And he asked me a question that's never been asked. He says, has a fighter ever disrespected you? And I said, wow. You know, I said, no, because my job is entirely different than yours. My job is to take care of you. Why would you come and, you know, try to give me a hard time?
Right.
You know, so, hey, man, I got so many stories with so many guys that are beyond fist and cuffs, you know, the personalities. And that's what my whole job is about. It's not even that I've done so many fights. It's about the characters that I work with.
So, I mean, it's clear that there has to be a lot of empathy associated with all of this. There has to be a lot of love. I mean, you are there at the weakest point when they fight. Where do you think this empathy comes from? I mean, not everybody can do that job.
You had to have gone through those stages of training, of getting hurt, of getting hit, the financials. I've gone through all those systems, right? So I understand their mental game. I understand their physical game. And you know, I get calls, emails all the time from people that want to be a Cutman. They see what I've done, and I mean, doctors, paramedics, nurses, EMTs, housewives, everybody. And I tell them, look, you got to spend hours and days and weeks and months and years in the gym, being a fighter, training like a fighter, getting that mental game so that you can understand them. And you have to. You got to be in the trenches, and you know, everybody wants to be a Cutman now, but just can't be a Cutman.
Do you feel that you understand them to the level that you understand them more than they understand themselves, in the sense of, you know, what's better for them?
Well, that's a good question. If I bring up a suggestion or if I do an action, they understand that it's for their benefit, you know, and that's a good question. It's they know I'm there to take care of them, and, you know, and it's a pleasure when, you know, not only the fighter will give you the props. You know, Caleb Plant, last time he fought, you know, we're taking team pictures with the cameras in his belt, and then we do individual pictures. So it's my time, and he wants to give me the belt. I said, no, that's yours. He goes, no, it's ours. And then as we're like this, he gives me a kiss and says, "I love you." You know, that's powerful moments, bro. You know,
Yeah.
you have to experience it, and they're not given to you, they're earned. And that's what makes it real special.
Yeah, for sure. As I'm thinking about this, as I'm listening to you, I mean, it's such a rich history that you've experienced.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite moment? Do you have a favorite
That,
moment in a ring? Maybe good or bad? I don't know. I mean, something that really sticks out, something that comes back very easy.
well, that Klitschko moment. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, who is going to tell you, you know, you could call me son right in the middle of going into battle.
Yeah.
You know, and I always say, talking about going into battle, Thomas, I always say when I walk into the dressing room, as a matter of fact, Frank Trigg said it best. Frank Mir said it best. He says, when I see Stitch walking into the dressing room, my stomach drops because I know it's time to fight. You know, so I am the guy, as I explained to him, I'm the guy in the old gladiator days where we're in the dungeon and I'm putting the armor on you to go out there and fight for survival. You know, so I am that guy, and I understand my role, and they understand my role. And, you know, even Vitor Belfort says, you know, when I see Stitch coming into the dressing room, that's when I was with the UFC. When I see Stitch coming into the dressing room, he brings that calming effect, even though I know he's working on the other side, you know. And I think those coming from these guys are very powerful quotes. So,
Powerful, yeah.
yeah.
Powerful phrases. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the easiest fight that you ever experienced? Was there one that it was no work. It was easy sliding. That was an easy buck that we made.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, I mean, listen, oftentimes the Cutman is associated with the blood and cuts and bruises and swelling and all the other
Yeah.
stuff, and you're fixing them, you're duct taping them.
Yeah.
But have you ever had one that was like, well, okay, I can do this every night?
Yeah, well, you know, it's those are the ones I don't want to do. You know, I want to do the ones where there's a little bit of work. I always prepare for a worst case scenario. You know, and yeah, if there's an easy fight, it's an easy fight. I just go on to the next one because I know eventually by working with numbers, I am going to be working a fight that's going to have cuts, and what difference did I make in the game? You know, so yeah, that's.
Do you prepare yourself for these fights? I mean, do you dissect this in a sense of, listen, I'm anticipating this to be outcome. I need to get ready for cuts here versus bruising. Or is it more of a cookie cutter approach where, listen, we are ready for everything, no matter what's going to happen? Do you dissect each fight and get ready for them?
But that's much, each event for sure. I always prepare, even if I'm working with one fighter, Thomas, I always prepare for 5. I have enough gauze and tape to wrap 5 fighters' hands. I have enough medications, you know, for 5 fighters. I have enough of the swabs. I have enough of everything, even though I'm working with one fighter. You know, so I always tell people, always prepare for the worst case scenario because it's going to happen. You know, and so yeah, that's how I prepare, and I, whether it's a 4-round fighter or whether it's a championship fight, my whole focus is always in the face, and that's my job. You know, so
Take me back to the beginning of all this. You move, how did it all start in a sense of where was the pivot point for you to really start thinking about being a cutman versus doing anything else? And I'm not talking necessarily the first fight, but the pivot moment where it's like, this is really what I want to do.
yeah, working, you know, my school of kickboxing, I had had saved a lot of guys, you know, and people ask me, hey, how'd you get the name Stitch? Well, I got it through kickboxing. I used to work with Dennis Alexio, and Dennis Alexio at that time was the best athlete I ever met in my life. He was a world champion in kickboxing, light heavyweight, I think cruiserweight and all that. But his friend Dave Rooney was his sparring partner, and they were both fighting in Vallejo, California. And at that time, I was learning to be a cutman. And in those days, it was boxing only. And these guys would not show you their tricks. I remember I went to one fight in Richmond, California, and the guy did a good job. And I went up to him and said, hey, look, I'm trying to learn to be a cutman. Can you tell me what you did? He says, F you. He goes, I'm taking this to my grave, and you got to learn like me. And he walked away. You know, I said, wow, I'll never be like that, man. I felt about this big, man. So from there on, my job was to teach, you know, and not be like this guy. And I've done this interview hundreds of times, never one mentioned his name. And now I go back to Oakland with Andre Ward because, you know, we used to live there. And he didn't know, but now him and his son want to take pictures with me. Now that my credibility got up, I said, all right, you know, I got you, man. I won because of you. and so yeah, it's been that type of road, and always giving back.
Do you feel that person, that event, that situation propel you forward in a sense of, I want to be better than this? I use that as an example not to do.
100%. 100%. That was, that one road that you cross, that one fork that you go into a different level, that took me into a different level, because I thought, and then it was only boxing, and their mentality was, keep it to yourself. I'm taking it to my grave. It's a secret and this and that. It's not. It's all technique. It's all technique and having the proper applications and knowing your game. And so that helped me do what I do now, and that's educate.
So how did you learn all this? I mean, we are talking about a couple decades back, right? I mean, there was no education. I don't know. I don't even know if there is a official Cutman training these days. No. Is there? That's the first question, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's there's not. I've done seminars, and people ask me to do seminars all the time, but I'm so busy. But I just put a video out last month. In fact, homie, my son-in-law, helped me put it together. It's called "Giving the Fighter One More Round." But it shows you everything from wrapping hands for boxing, wrapping hands for MMA, how to work on the swelling, the medications we use, everything that I did in a seminar, I put it on video. And it's only $50. It's not to make money. It's for you guys to learn how to take care of these fighters. And, that's available at stitchduran.com. No, it's available at stitchduran.com.
Well, and we'll put all the links in the show notes for this. So if anybody's interested, they'll definitely dig into this.
But that's the point.
How did you learn? I guess that's the puzzle for me.
Well, it's unfortunate. I had to learn in the trenches. I'd be sitting in the dressing rooms, because then it was only boxing, right? I'd be sitting in the dressing rooms, and I'd look at the guys over there wrapping hands and kind of check his formula out. But I would go home and I'd wrap my own hands based on what I would see them do, and I'd get on the bag and pop, and finally I made the adjustments on wrapping hands that I felt comfortable with. But I also donated a lot of my time and my cost practicing on other fighters. And that's why I tell people, it's going to cost you to be a Cutman, because you got to go out there and you got to, every time you wrap somebody's hands, it's like a business card. So I came with no knowledge. In boxing, there was no knowledge, but I talked a lot to the ringside doctors, and through common sense, and that's what has gotten me here, is a lot of common sense and knowing what the medications are for. And, I always tell these young fighters, Thomas, try to educate them. I said, look, if you're looking for a Cutman, and if he put the swab in his mouth or his ear, get another Cutman. That's old school. That's nasty. That's dirty. But more importantly, ask him what the adrenaline chloride 1/1000 does. That's the medication that we use on the swab that goes in the cut. And if the guy tells you well, they'll say, it stops the bleeding. I know, because I've asked guys, right? Yeah, but how does it stop the bleeding? Oh, it coagulates it. If he tells you it coagulates blood, get another Cutman, because it's the wrong answer. The medication we use is it's a vessel constrictor. So as you see me work on a cut, first thing I'll do is I'll squeeze, and I'll get the blood out of these little veins in there. Then I'll put the swab there, and it absorbs into the veins, and literally it'll close them. So,
Stitch, I gotta ask you. I mean, wrapping hands is one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we all can do this. You can find a buddy and you can wrap his hands. How in the world do you practice figuring out what to do with a cut? I mean, you can cut people and to fix them.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No, it's all on the job training. But everything is based on application.
Right.
Is having the proper tools and application. So there's no schools out there, and it's a shame. There's so many guys. But keep in mind now, Thomas, our sport, all combat sports, at the A level, B level, C level, every other major sport we have to be certified. Coaches have to be certified, trainers. In our game, none of us have to be certified to be called pros. None of us. Trainers.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that anybody can simply be a Cutman? Doesn't matter whether they know or they don't know what they are doing?
Yes. And I see it all the time.
I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the fighter.
Fighters don't know. It's that's the point. That's why I try to bring education, because fighters don't understand. These guys don't understand. They look and they see, and they think they could do it. I have guys. In fact, I did the fight in Phoenix Saturday. Guy asked, "Hey man, can I use some of your adrenaline chloride?" I said, "No. If you don't have it, it's because you're not qualified to have it. Why would I give you something that you don't know how to use?" So,
I mean, that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, arguably the most important, one of the most, if not the most important job in the ring or a cage. And anybody can do it. Anybody can just jump in and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna stitch you in together. I'm gonna put you to get back together."
Yeah, anybody.
Hmm.
Anybody. And you look at the fights and even boxing, MMA, you'll see guys doing what I just said. No gloves, we swabs here, swabs there, and yeah, happens all the time. But that's why my whole process is education, is try to educate and there's a lot of things with CTE and dementia and all that, and we're working with different people, the Cleveland Clinic on trying to get some answers and protect these fighters on long-term injuries.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting
Yeah.
as you continue talking about this. So you're making transition from boxing to MMA. UFC is starting at some point. You mentioned you knew Dana White before even it all started. Is that a big change for you as a cutman? I mean, making a transition from striking only to getting into mixed martial arts. Now you're dealing with kicks, knees, and so on, elbows. I mean, all
Elbows, yeah.
that just changes the game, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah, that's
How do you adapt to that?
well, trial and error. You go through it, because you're right. The UFC, in boxing you might get one cut, right? And it's a good one, In MMA, multiple cuts are common, and deeper cuts are common, right? And so you use the same applications. I remember Mike Kyle, he says, when I see Stitch walking into the ring, I know I'm cut. and the confidence level, like Pete Sal Drago, he was fighting Matt Brown, and the referee stopped the fight because he was taking a beating, and he's arguing with the referee and the doctor. No, I'm okay. I come up to him. I said, Drago, look at me. You got knocked out. He said, Stitch, I believe. So that's like that's that confidence level, bro. That you got to create with these guys, and so many stories like this.
So there has to be an enormous amount of trust between you and the fighter. I mean, when he is not listening to anybody else besides you, that trust has to be up to the highest level. I mean, that's
Brock Lesnar, when he fought Cain Velasquez, if you remember, he had a big old gash.
Oh yeah,
right? And I'm working on him, and we're this far apart. He says, Stitch, take care of me. Yeah, of course I'm going to take care of you.
Have you ever found yourself in a position where you walk into the cage or that ring and you're like, oh damn, this is going to be tough. And you don't have a lot of time. I mean, we talk about seconds. I mean, it's just
50 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, by the time they sit down, by the time you get to them, it's really not a lot of time.
No, exactly, and that's where the confidence level comes in. No, but there's been times where I'm like this, multiple cuts and deep cuts. So at that point, you go after the primary ones, the ones that are going to affect blood in the eye and all that. And but you all try to treat them all the same. And it does happen. No, sure.
Do you recall one particular one that you just this is going to be a lot of work?
Yeah. Well, no, there's plenty of those. But that's what gets me excited. Marvin Eastman, when he took that big old elbow from Vitor Belfort, Marvin had a cut about like this.
Oh, yes. I remember that one. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm working on him, and I know that they're showing it on the big giant screens, right? So I always check on mental, where you're at mentally. And I'm working on him. I said, Marvin, this is the biggest fucking cut I've ever seen in my life. I told him that just to see how he responded, and he smiled, and I knew he was okay for that, And but those are little things that are within ourselves. I said, Marvin, biggest cut I've ever seen in my life. And so, but I got his attention, which means that he was reacting brain-wise. He was reacting well.
What would be the case if he wasn't? Were you doing that?
Yeah, then you start talking to the ringside doctors about getting them little CAT scans and CTEs and do follow up on that.
Yeah.
And and it's happened. There was in boxing, Andre Durrell. It was a rematch with Jose Esquirigi, and Andre Durrell was taking the kind of punches I considered long-term damage, where you get hit here, boom, and it comes out there, and he's taking a beating. And he comes up to the corner, and I'm working on him, and I whisper into his ear. I said, look, the doctors are thinking of stopping the fight. Do you want to continue? And he goes, just a small no. I said, all right, stop the fight. And the trainer and his grandfather, no, one more round. I said, nope. As long as he said no, he's done. And the next day, him and his wife called me about 8 in the morning, and he thanked me. He said, Stitch, my wife and I thank you because I just had nothing with me, And I saw him when David Benavidez fought, and comes and gives me, Stitch, look at man, because of you, I'm like this. Thank you, I love you. It's crazy. Moments like this happen all the time.
I feel like all these guys, all these fighters, right? They are recognized as gladiators in a sense. They go into the war. They win or lose. They are recognized, or they are pushed to the side in a sense from a public perspective. There's not much recognition for guys like you. You're kind of behind the scenes. You're kind of the guy that you come in, do your job, and you kind of leave. Yet, as I'm listening to you, it feels like you have developed enormous amount of relationships with these guys. And I mean, just now through this 30 minutes that we've been talking, you say, "Oh, he gives me a hug. Oh, hey, Stitch," and it is so interesting to listen to you because from one side, public almost doesn't know you from that side. You know what I mean? You're like the behind the scene guys.
Yeah.
Yet all of these guys see you as that the core guy in their corner. I mean, that has to feel good for you, doesn't it?
100%, bro. Like I say, I've done hundreds and hundreds of world title fights. It's not even about the fights no more. It's about the relationship. I saw the fights in Phoenix, Calvin Gassino, and hadn't seen him since I left the UFC. He comes and gives me a big giant hug. Hey man, how you doing? I miss you. I said, wow, how you doing, Calvin? How you doing? So yeah, these are the relationships. It's fights are a fight, cut's a cut, but it's that personal relationship that I have with these guys, and they don't forget. I'm taking care of them. They are my babies when they're in that ring, even though they're modern day gladiators.
What's the most memorable moment for you out of all of this?
There's so many, man.
I know.
There's
I know.
Do
you have one that brought a tear to your eye? Do you have one?
It had Chuck Liddell fought Keith Jardine.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
That's years ago. Well, Keith Jardine beat Chuck Liddell.
Yeah.
And I'm running back to the dressing room to do something, and Keith Jardine's father's like the big brawny guy for the paper towels, big old husky young man. Bro, he had tears in his eyes. And I stopped. And I said, look, man, congratulations and this and that. But, those are moments. I've had wives come up to me and mothers and fathers and thank you for taking care of my son, or thank you for taking care of my husband. And, those are all priceless moments, man. It's, I can't give you one because there's too many, but if you ask me for a fighter, I'll give you a story. That's what I tell people. It's easier that way. So.
All right. Well, in that case, give me the best story that you have.
Well, Klitschko had to be on top of the list. There's just so many, right? And
how many? Do you have a count?
A what?
Do you have a count? How many times you are in the ring and in a cage?
Bro, it's in the thousands now.
In the thousands,
yeah.
I was wondering if you
in world title fights, it's in the high hundreds, close to. I don't even count them no more. It's just not even about the fights no more. I tell you. I mean, so many.
Walk me through the process. How does this work? I mean, Stitch is sitting at home. I mean, you don't have to work at this point. I mean, you're just chilling. Life is good. Do guys call you and say, "Hey, Stitch, I need a Cutman. Are you available?" And it goes from there. How does the process work?
Yeah, that's it. They call me and ask me if I'm available for this date or that date, and we go over the fees. And yeah, of course, it's that simple.
Do you ever say no?
I haven't, unless I'm booked at some other event.
Well, I'm not talking about that.
Yeah,
that's scheduling. For whatever reason, you're like, I don't want to do that.
No. And even like a young fighter, like a 4-rounder, let's say in boxing, I don't even charge these guys. Because it's not fair to them. They're not making that much money. But like I tell them, I want you guys to understand the importance of having a good team, and that's why I encourage them to go out there and do what they do. but have a little bit of education under their belt. But yeah, God, I can't tell you how many fights I've worked. It just, I mean, last Saturday I worked 4 fights, and I think Tyson, I worked the Tyson fight. The fight before, I think I did 5 fights, because now what happened is when COVID kicked in, I live 20 minutes from the MGM here in Las Vegas. Top Rank were going to do 16 shows in the bubble, 2 shows a week. And they asked me and Cutman Mike Basil if we would be the house Cutman, because they were limited on how many people a team could bring because of COVID. And but that program, Burt Watson and myself and Leon Tabbs, we put that together in the UFC, where we work with everybody. And the program was so successful that when COVID finished, they kept us. And these are the fights that I've been doing in boxing. And like I say, I worked 4 fights, 5 fights, and wrap hands and all that. But these are a lot of the young guys that are experiencing top level stuff, and we help them through doing the proper things.
Important job.
Yeah,
Important job.
And it's fun, man. It's an adventure.
You mentioned Mike Tyson a couple times. You were there. What are your thoughts on such a big milestone in boxing and entertainment? I mean, there's a lot of opinions on that fight. There's a lot of people just throwing comments here and there, but I'm curious coming from you. I mean, Mike Tyson, not a spring chicken.
No.
And, well established, well decorated boxer. I mean, if not a GOAT, right? Some of them consider him the best of the best, stepping in the ring with much younger guy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts from a Cutman perspective?
Well,
what are you getting ready for?
Yeah, well, I've known Mike before he had his tattoos. We trained the same gyms and all that. He always has his own team. But when I got called to work with him, of course, who wouldn't want to work with Mike Tyson?
Who wouldn't want to work that way?
Yeah, but and this was like 2 months before the fight. But he was telling us when we were in the gym that when he was flying, he went to the restroom and he was shitting blood, and he had a bleeding ulcer. And he goes, it scared him, and he got up and he left the restroom and he fainted on the walkway. And but anyway, he says, throughout the whole process, he lost 25 pounds and had a whole bunch of blood that they had to drain out of him. And this was like 6 months before the fight. I knew like 2 months before the fight that I was going to work with him, but I said nothing because I just didn't know, because of his age and what had happened, that he would continue being healthy come fight time. And I think the last week and a half, I finally let people know, hey, I'm working with Mike. So a lot of people, when they watch the TV, they didn't even know, because I forgot to tell them. But, that's the thing about it. Everybody, a lot of the social media guys are, Mike took so-and-so and this and that. But the guy's 58 years old. And you could beat anything, but you can't beat time. And at the end of the second round, I told Amir Abdullah, I said, Mike hit a brick wall. Boom, that's it. So, but it was fun.
Well, it definitely appeared that way. Are all these medical issues that he's going through a concern for you as the fight is approaching? Are you looking at it from that perspective?
That's why I never said nothing. I knew 2 months before I was going to work with him, but I just didn't know if he was going to be able to last throughout the whole, because he was training hard. He was training extremely, extremely hard for a 58-year-old man. I couldn't have done it, so I didn't know if he was going to burn out or get an injury. So I said nothing.
Were you surprised of the results of the fight?
Yeah. No, not really. I mean, nothing surprises me anymore, but yeah, just to try to get him motivated to continue going and make it a more, easier fight. It would have been nice, but no, you can beat anything, but you can't beat time. And, give Jake Paul credit. I've done 4 or 5 of those type of events, and he's a master of what he does. So, he changed the whole game, including social media people. I know the first one I did was with KSI with Logan Paul, and I didn't know either one of them. Found out that these guys have like 20 million followers all the time. Well, we fight at the Staples Center, and we walk into the dressing room, and we put our equipment down, and the team goes to ringside, and we look at the ring and who's going to be positioning here and there. Nobody recognized me. They recognized all the guys from England with KSI, but they didn't recognize me, so I knew it was a different clientele.
Yeah, different environment.
Yeah.
You mentioned just a moment ago part of motivating these guys, getting back in the ring and doing what they need to do. Do you feel like that's part of your job? Not only put them together, but also getting in their head and steering them in the right direction.
Yeah,
So their success point is where it needs to be.
100%. Yeah, psychology is a major part of this game,
Yeah.
and that's to strengthen the mind. And so yeah,
What do you say to these guys?
well,
I
it
mean, how
depends
do you
on
come up with these things, or
they
like
just
how do you trigger them?
they just happen, and I don't know, nothing is planned. You look at their body language. Body language says a lot. You look at their reactions, and then you try to piggyback on those reactions and strengthen them somehow by giving them a point of confidence. And
But that also means that you need to know these guys. You need to be deeper with them than just a stranger. I mean, I would not imagine the stranger can say the same a thing to motivate somebody to go back into the war,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And then me as a cutman, that's a good point. Me as a cutman, my job is not to give instructions. My job is not to do that. So the things that I do are within limited time.
Yeah.
And I whisper in their ears, and so yeah, very limited, but they know that if I'm saying something, it's going to be the truth.
Is that base of it? Is that a core? What it needs to
100%.
be? That
Yes.
that trust is built on the truth. So if I tell you something, you know that I'm not bullshitting right now.
Yeah, yeah, like Caleb Plant when he fought Benavidez.
Mhm.
He was a tough fight then going into, I think, the 11th round, the end of the 11th round. The coach wanted to stop the fight. And I said, nah, I can't let Caleb go out this way. He has to go out like a gladiator. So when he sits down, I whisper in his ear, I said, look, the coach is thinking of stopping the fight. Stay off the ropes. And he did. And they went the distance, right? So his credibility stayed high and he didn't get hurt. And, but that's just through experience and knowing somebody like Caleb Plant.
But some might see that as a conflict in a sense. Like, I mean, I don't know. Coach is saying one thing, you're saying the other thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, because I'm looking at different things. He's looking at he's taking a beating. Is he gonna get knocked out the next round? Well, no. He's getting beat on points, but he's not. He's good to knowing Caleb Plant because I've been in camp with him, condition wise and mentally wise, he's capable to go one more round, and he did, and made him a hero.
A big win.
Yeah,
a big win. You're looking to retire, you said last event next year.
Yeah, well, I don't know about retiring. That's people ask me about that. I'm 73. I'll be 73 years old. I in Tokyo, I'll spend it in Tokyo, right? December the 29th. But next year I'm working on different projects. Like I say, my documentary, we're just about done. We'll have first cut by March and start screening it. I'm working on that. I'm working on a cannabis line, tie stitch. I'm working on a cut cream for the healing process of cuts. So I'm doing more of the business aspect and then concentrating a lot on that. And but yeah, I'm still going to be doing some work. This keeps me young.
Do you feel that you ever going to stop, or this is so embedded into your roots that you just got to get in a ring?
Well, and that's a good point. People ask when you're going to stop. I think it would be when my mechanics start slowing down, when I can't go up the ring as quick, and if normally I'm in there, 7 seconds after the bell rings, if I'm in there 15 seconds after the bell ring, might be time to give it to somebody else. So everything's going to be based on how I react physically, and but it's not even a job; it's an adventure.
I'm fascinated how casual, in a sense, you take all of this, meaning how serious you are about what you do, but it's not even a job. Like there is so much passion associated with it. It just radiates so much that you don't even consider this as work.
No.
Where is this coming from?
From passion, having a passion.
Do you feel like you've worked a day in your life? I mean,
well, I grew up as a farm worker. I'm picking peaches, tomatoes, cotton. I tell people figs, apricots, walnuts. I did all that work as a farm worker. I'm that Mexican they want to send back, right? And but that was work, right? This is a piece of cake. I said, I could always go back and pick tomatoes or pick cotton. This isn't even. It's an adventure, bro. How can I say it's a job? I get get the chance to travel the world, work with the best fighters in the world from all countries. And how can you consider this a job?
Is there a place where you haven't been and you want to go?
I haven't been to South Africa. I've been to every continent except South Africa. And
is that on your bucket list?
Well, no, it's going to happen. I haven't been to Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic for boxing, but everywhere else I've been. I mean, throughout Europe, and it's nice when you go to different places and they recognize you. So
listen, it's hard. I mean, you must have been somebody must have been living under a rock if they don't know who Stitch Duran is. I mean, it's. I think at this point of time, anybody who watches any type of martial arts or boxing, combat sport, you've built such a branding around all of this that it's I don't know who wouldn't know.
Yeah, and marketing is such an important part of my gift. Being that I worked with R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company on sales and marketing, I became real good at it. So I market myself. I created my own Stitch Premium athletic tape. I created my own Enswell, that's curved for the contours and, just to make the game safer. I created the wrist wrap where you put the swabs here instead of here, So try to improve the game. And not so much for the economics, I'm not dumb. It's a business, but it's not, I don't do that for that. I do it to educate. And as my legacy goes, as I leave, the game, I want people to recognize that outside of saving a lot of fighters, but I made this game a lot safer for these guys.
Is that your goal from this point on, to 100%. Educate, to make this better, make this easier, make this safer?
Always been. That's why I made that video, because I just can't do seminars all the time. Guys want me to go in February to Maine. I said, no, I ain't going to Maine. I don't like cold at all. Thank you, but no thank you. No. How about he's doing one in August? I said, I'll do August.
Is that one of your weak points, the cold weather?
I don't like cold, bro. I don't like cold, man. I was telling some people I was stationed in Thailand. That's where I studied the Muay Thai system, right? And we're in the tropics, and the ocean is right there. And from there, they sent me to Rapid City, South Dakota. And it was the coldest winter of my life, man.
So what you're saying, you're not coming to Chicago? I just looked at my watch. It's 38 degrees here right now.
Yeah. My son's in Ypsilanti, Michigan. It's like 8 degrees. And I was talking about my first fight in Chicago just the other day. We fought at the Aragon Theater, and it was freezing, bro. And the wind that you guys talk about, the hawk, you guys have the hawk, and but I've done, a couple shows there. I know Andre Galata when he fought there, and so I've been there a couple times. And I was just in Chicago, I think a month ago. My wife graduated from she's studying the Christianity, so she got a degree in that. And I was in Chicago and had a good time. But the weather was a lot better.
Things change very quickly around here. So we have 70 degrees and next day is 30. So it's part of it. Listen, before we start wrapping this up, let me ask you, some might consider this a controversial question. MMA came in, UFC came in the 90s, changed the platform of how, all of this looked. Up to that point, boxing was the only sport of that kind, and that's where you started, and that pivot point takes place. There was no question around the fact that mixed martial arts, and UFC particularly, is really taking over the demographic of what is happening to boxing. Do you feel that boxing will disappear at some point because of that, as a natural evolution of what is happening?
That's a good question, but no. The answer is no. Whether it takes second seat to MMA, yes. As a matter of fact, I was talking to some guys from Mexico last night, and I was taken back. They were Native Americans from North Dakota. And then they said every res had a boxing team, right? But now everybody's going into MMA. But that's the new generation of training, is people are going into the MMA industry. Now, you're always going to have boxing, and but is it going to be as big as some of these MMA fights? We'll see, But I know that right now the Saudis are getting involved and bringing a lot of money into the boxing game. But yeah, boxing's here to stay. But is it going to be as popular as MMA down the road? Maybe not.
What's your preferred What do you prefer working back more?
I've done them
MMA
all.
or?
I've done K1 kickboxing.
Well, I know
I've
you
done
have.
bare knuckle
What's your
fights.
preference? Where are you leaning into?
I like the MMA because it had multiple cuts, multiple fights. But
you like the drama of cuts, don't you?
That's my job, bro. But 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 in boxing, the economics are a lot better in boxing. And
is
a
it
lot
for now,
better.
or do you think it's going to remain that way?
Yeah, well, as long as as long as these MMA companies continue paying Cutman what they're paying them and fighters what they're paying them, that's not going to change for them.
Yeah.
And so I hope it develops into a better organization where they start putting more money into the fighters, pension plans, insurance plans, and none of it's non-existent, and it's a shame because not only MMA but all promotional companies, their thing is to make money, and like when I was with the UFC, we were all names. And then they got to the corporate business. And I understand because I worked RJ Reynolds tobacco company for 23 years. They went into the corporate status where you start losing names and you go into numbers and then you go into profits. And that's where they're at now. But, you're talking about that. One sport I wouldn't do, whether it's sport, it's not a sport, is this slap boxing. I think it's horrible, horrible, horrible for dementia pugilistica, for long-term damage. It's horrible. The object of that game is to knock the opponent unconscious.
Yeah.
It's horrible, horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's big within the social media people.
But yet it draws so much attention.
The social media
I'm not a
kids.
fan of it at all, but yet why do you think that happens? Is it because the entertainment factor, the drama of somebody getting knocked out?
100%. That's all. People want to see people get knocked out. That's a cold way of getting knocked out. God.
I'm not really sure why these guys do it.
Me neither. Me neither. I don't understand it.
Do you do that work too? Are you involved in that at all?
I would not be involved in that.
If somebody called you today, you would turn it down?
I would, in a heartbeat. Huh. Yeah, it's not fair to these guys.
It's a crazy world out there.
Yeah, it's crazy out there, man. It's a hurt business. It's a knockout business.
Do you think that boxing and MMA in general, or even K1, do you think this is a hard-earned bread for these guys? I mean, they put themselves through, a mill. I mean, there's a physical and mental abuse almost.
And that's a good point. I'm talking to a lot of these retired fighters. They got long-term injuries. Their knees, their backs. Some guys that I haven't spoke to in MMA, guys from the UFC, I haven't spoke to, I've been gone 10 years, and I've seen them, and their speech pattern has changed. In boxing, dementia pugilistica, the punch drunk syndrome, is quite evident, right? Yeah. And when I was with the UFC, that was non-existent. But now as I go forward 10 years later, there's guys that are having slurred speech. There's guys that are losing, short-term memory and all that. So what's happening to boxing is now happening to combat sport.
And probably much faster rate, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, if I had a choice to eliminate one technique in MMA, would be that ground and pound coming down on the elbow when the guy's down. Yeah, because his head is against the canvas, and there's nowhere for that head to go. And when Michael Bisping got knocked out by Dan Henderson, in fact, there's a video out there where I literally had to whisper in his ear 3 times, "Mike, you got knocked out." What happened? "Mike, you got knocked out." He's, "Mike, look at me, you got knocked out." Same with Fador. When Fador got knocked out also, I had to tell him 3 times. I remember that. I had to tell him 3 times, And you talk about special moments. I'll give you a special Fedor Emelianenko moment. So I'm in Japan with Josh Barnett for Pride fights, right? After the UFC let him go, he brought me in to be his personal cutman. And going there, guys would want me to wrap their hands. And Josh would say, no, I pay him to come. If you want him to wrap your hands, $500. Man, I'd make $2-3 grand in a heartbeat, right? Well, the promoter comes and says, "Would you be willing to wrap Fedor's hands?" He had just come back from breaking his thumb. And I said, "Yeah, of course. He's as a living legend, right?" And so I go in the dressing room, and I've worked with enough Russians, Eastern Bloc fighters, to know that they're very quiet, And so I'm talking to Fedor, open, close, and trying to talk to him. Yeah, no, good, open, close. Finally, I finished wrapping his hands. I said, "How do they feel?" He goes, super, super. Bro, that's how he said. and it was cool because, you know, I every time I worked his fights after that, same with his brother, Alexander. When he fought, I
Alexander,
rapped his ass. But the last time I saw Fedor was my last fight with Bellator. And I come in from the airport and I'm in the lobby and he comes up to me. He comes up to me and says, I have sweats for you. I said, what? He said, yeah. He sent a guy upstairs. He gave me sweats. The team sweats, stitch in the front, stitch in the back. Bro, that's one of my most prized possessions.
I hope you keep all these
Yeah,
things.
yes, 100%. No, that ain't give. But that, you know, what made that one special, number one is Fedor. But the thing about it, he thought about me when he was in Russia.
Way ahead of time. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what got me. That's what got me. You know, and same with Brock Lesnar. I'm wrapping his hands and I said, man, I said, I like your shirt. He goes, I have one for you. He goes, my wife asked me, should I pack one for Stitch? And he said, yeah. And after I finished wrapping his hands, he goes and gives me a shirt. You know,
I mean, those are irreplaceable moments. Those are
insane moments,
that...
bro. Insane. Brock Lesnar, I wrapped his hands and I'm putting his gloves on, and they had to order 4X gloves for him.
I was about to ask you when you mentioned his name.
Yeah. So
how huge those hands are.
Huge.
Is that a challenge for you?
Just extra gauze and tape. You know? And so I wrap his hands and I'm putting the glove on and they rip, bro, just like the Hulk. And I think,
really?
Oh, gee. Burt Watson comes and says, Stitch, we only got one more pair. But I remember Vladimir Klitschko, we would put Vaseline on his gauze and slide it in. So that's what I did to Brock for the second pair. Well, I kept that pair and I had him sign it for me. So I got the rip pair of 4X gloves from Brock Lesnar.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm telling you, man.
You have so many stories.
So many.
Like, I hope you're documenting all of this in your movie, because this is, I mean, irreplaceable memories, irreplaceable moments that nobody will ever know besides you. You got to share this.
Yeah. Well, it's you know, I give like the Mike Tyson, they give us a whole line of apparel. I give them all away. Sweatshirts, because I don't wear sweat hoodies and all that. I give them all to my grandsons and, you know, my sons and all that. But I kept the cornerman jacket that I used for the fight. That one I'm not giving away. You know, that's personal.
Special moments.
Special moments.
Special moments.
Yeah.
As you go through this and as you know, thinking about doing less of the ring work and more of the operational things, as you're thinking about the future here, do you ever sit back, like in the evening perhaps, or, you know, in a quiet moment and really reflect on all of this, the amount of lives that you have impacted just by simply being there and fixing these guys, the amount of friends and relationships that you have made, the amount of times that people literally, I mean, you saved their lives in some ways. Literally.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
You ever think about all that?
All the time. All the time. And, you know, I just thank God for putting me in this position, you know, and why? You know, why me? You know,
well,
but like,
why you?
Well, you know, and like the Creed movie, I'll explain it to you this way. So we're on break and I'm telling Sylvester Stallone, I'm telling Rocky, I said, man, I can't sleep at night. You know, he said, well, what's up? I said, well, I'm here in Philadelphia 6 weeks with you, Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, Ryan Coogler, the director. And he put his hand on my shoulder. He did a clip of one of mine. He said, hey, you're here because you earned it. And I thought, well, you know, coming from him, better special. And then I'll just do another quick one on the Creed movie. In the script, my name was Marcel. And I said, man, I don't know anybody named Marcel. You know, I'm going to try to figure that out. But when it was time for Rocky to introduce us to Adonis, Sylvester Stallone says, oh, this is Stitch, the best cut man in Philadelphia. Bro, my heart started beating like, yes, you know. And I say, hey, man, thanks. He goes, no, it has to be authentic. You know, so it's a little behind the scenes story that very few people know.
I mean, that's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That has to feel good.
Crazy. Michael B. Jordan. You know, I'm wrapping his hands in the second movie, and every day it's just him and I in the trailer. So I always treat him like I did KSI, like a fighter. But I told him, I said, Michael, I'm so proud of you, man. And I'm so proud of you and Tessa and Ryan Coogler. And Steve Capel was the director for Creed 2. And he looks at me like I'm looking at you. He says, Stitch, we went from being writers to directors, producers, and directors. We went from being writers, producers, and directors. He goes, I'm directing Creed 3, and you're with me as long as you want. I said, my man, I'm with you.
Man,
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
That's huge. How do you think I felt?
I mean, he has all these choices, and it's you.
Yeah. He says, you're with me as long as you want.
Do you feel like you have accomplished everything in your life? I mean, listen, you hanging out with Sylvester Stallone, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, like you hang out with A stars, right? A-level stars. You have the best boxers and fighters in the world. They give you clothing. It's made specially for you. They give you hugs. They want you to hold their belt.
Yeah.
Like, are you the luckiest cat in the world? Or like, have you done everything in the world? Like, is there anything else that you really want to do? I feel like
I'm going to skin dive with the sharks in Australia.
All right, well,
that's a little different. Maybe a cage. Yeah, maybe a cage, But that's it. No, but in this game, I thank God every day. I wake up every day, and I was telling this guy last night as I drive, on the freeway passing the casinos, I look at it and I just thank God that I'm here. I said, wow, I made the right move, took the right steps, treated people the right way, and been blessed with everything that's happened to me. And to this point, I'm just warming up, Thomas, just interested to see how the future comes. And it just comes. It's not like I prepare for, well, I do prepare for everything, but it's nothing that I put on script that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Until, like I say, to this day, my proudest moments, and you asked about that earlier, is that I've never asked for one job. Just that proud Mexican kid that can't kiss nobody's ass and, just do it through performance. But always giving back. Always giving back. And that's for my parents. And when the UFC let me go because I spoke out about the Reebok deal, that went viral. I did that because my parents were fighting for the rights of farm workers with Cesar Chavez. So that's always been our natures, to always fight for the underdog. And I'm going to continue doing that.
Do you see yourself as an underdog?
Well, not no more. You're talking about guys, A-list, it's guys with like Shaq comes up to me and, hey, man, I see you everywhere. Wesley Snipes comes up and shakes my hand and says, hey, man, UFC did you wrong. I said, well, Goldberg comes up to me. Hey, man, F Dana, man, I got a lot of respect for you. These are the type of things that they come to me, but I'm always the little Chicano kid that grew up as a farm worker. That's my whole base, that's my motivation, that if I could do it from the ground up, you could do it. And that's what this whole documentary, From the Fields to the Garden, is about, that if I could do it, anybody could do it.
When is that coming out?
We'll be done. They're 53 minutes into the 90-minute film editing. We expect to have first cut by the end of March. And like I say, Michael B. Jordan and their group are willing to help us take it to Amazon, which is a distributor. But then I have other high-end Hollywood people that want to take it to Netflix and all that. So, but Michael B. Jordan will get first choice. By March, we should have what they call first cut. And my daughter works for the Raiders, and she showed one of her supervisors one of the trailers, one of the sizzles, and she goes, "Oh my God, we got to screen this here in our theater." So we might be showing it at the Raiders headquarters here in Las Vegas. So
I mean, that's amazing.
Support from all over the world. I mean, literally, it's crazy.
That's like the wrapping all of this up, your entire career, your entire life, putting it together, and creating this big milestone at the end.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What a way to end it. Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping not the end. I'm hoping that you continue working and doing all of this. I mean, you're making big changes in the fighting world and continue chipping away. So good for you.
Yeah, no, 25 will be on health and safety. That's my number one thing. So,
well, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Listen, Stitch, thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour. I mean, what an amazing life. What an amazing story. But really, the big takeaway for me personally is the fact that dreams do come true.
Yeah.
I mean, forget about a plan. Forget about all of this. Keep doing what you love. Keep that passion going. Keep that fire. And truly, we really can achieve amazing things in life. And you are really a true example of that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you really sharing that story, being vulnerable with some of these things. Thanks for all the behind the scenes,
Yeah.
on this behind the scenes stories. I mean, what an amazing conversation that was. If there's one thing you would change in combat sports, what would it be?
Well, education.
Education.
It's giving these fighters, taking care of them with some kind of pension plan, some kind of insurance plan. Simple things that they require. Every other sport has it. Why not boxing and why not MMA, combat sports?
I love it.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to, get to your websites, and I know you have a couple books out and the movie is coming out, is there a central point where all that information is available?
Yeah. Everything that I do go through Cutman for Hire Supplies. So it's Cutman and then the number 4, Cutman for Hire Supplies. And what happened there is when I had my own tape, Stitch Premium Athletic tape, I was always traveling. So if you would order, I wouldn't get it to you till I got back and all that. So through a dream, I called Juan Ramirez. He had just started his company, his website, and he sells everything for trainers and Cutmen. And I called him. I said, "Look, would you be interested in carrying my tape? I'll help you with your promos." And so he carries my tape. So everything's available at Cutman for Hire Supplies. The instructional video that's at StitchDuran.com, and it's only $50. And if you just want to rent to learn how to wrap pants for MMA, that's only $10. I say it's not for me to make the money; it's for me to teach you, and that's my legacy. My money comes from other things. So.
Well, I'll make sure that all these links are posted in the show notes. So as you guys are listening, you are interested in some of this, or simply you want to support Stitch, I mean, please go get yourself tape, get yourself some of these videos. I mean, they're not only helpful, but also, great causes. So we want you to continue doing what you're doing. So listen, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing the vulnerable stories, the funny stories, the great stories, all that. Thanks to you, martial arts is better. And I love the fact that you focus on the education, the next generation, making all this better. I mean, without you, this place would not be the same. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. And it's funny, in closing, I was with the natives from North Dakota last night, and one of the guys, "Hey, man, you guys from the UFC." People still associate me with the UFC. I've been gone 10 years, but that's that brand recognition.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed.
You are.
Thank you.
Let's wrap this up for today. Stitch, thank you for being here. Thank you for chatting with me last hour. What a great story.
Thank you, my man. All the best, and hope to see you in Chicago when it's warm.
Yeah, absolutely. We should. That's
then.
in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I won't see you until then. All right. God bless you, man.
Right, let's wrap it up.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.